The sun hung low in the sky as I stirred the pot of simmering stew on the stove, its rich aroma filling our small kitchen. I glanced at the clock. My husband would be home late again. The long hours at work had become a routine, a pattern that seemed to stretch endlessly before me. Each tick of the clock echoed in the silence of our home, amplifying the absence that had crept into our lives. I busied myself with chopping vegetables, trying to focus on the mundane tasks that filled my evenings. The radio played softly in the background, a familiar tune that reminded me of better days. Yet, as I moved through my chores, an unsettling feeling settled in my chest. The warmth of our home felt more like a cage than a sanctuary lately. The doorbell rang unexpectedly, pulling me from my thoughts. I wiped my hands on a dish towel and opened the door to find him standing there, my brother-in-law. He wore a casual smile that seemed to brighten the dim porch light. "Hey there. Thought I'd drop by and see how you're doing," he said. "Just making dinner," I replied, forcing a smile in return. He stepped inside without waiting for an invitation, his presence filling the space with an energy I hadn't realized I missed. We exchanged pleasantries as he leaned against the counter, casually watching me chop vegetables. There was something comforting about his company, it felt easy and familiar. As we chatted about mundane things, his latest project at work and my attempts at perfecting Grandma's stew recipe, I felt a flicker of warmth ignite within me. It was strange how quickly conversation flowed between us, how laughter came so easily when he was near. But then came the weight of reality crashing down again, the reminder of my husband's absence and the growing distance between us. My heart sank slightly as I recalled how he used to share this kitchen with me, how we once laughed over burnt toast and spilled flour. "I should probably get going," he said after a while, glancing toward the door. "Don't want to keep you from your cooking." "Right," I replied softly, feeling an unexpected pang of disappointment at his impending departure. As he turned to leave, something compelled me to ask him to stay just a little longer. "Actually, if you're not busy later, maybe you could help me with some repairs? The kitchen sink has been acting up." His eyes lit up at my suggestion. "I'd love to help." A plan formed in my mind, a pretext for companionship during another long evening alone in our home while my husband worked late again. We decided on a time for him to return later that week. Days passed slowly until that evening arrived. As I prepared for his visit, anxiety fluttered in my stomach like a caged bird desperate for freedom. What had begun as innocent camaraderie now felt charged with unspoken tension. When he arrived with tools in hand, we fell into an easy rhythm as we worked together under the sink's dim light. The air grew thick with unexpressed emotions as we exchanged glances that lingered just a moment too long. "Hand me that wrench," he said casually. I reached for it but accidentally brushed against his arm instead. A jolt surged through me as our eyes met, something shifted in that instant, a recognition of feelings both thrilling and terrifying. We resumed working but soon found ourselves caught up in conversation about memories from family gatherings and shared childhood stories, moments filled with laughter and nostalgia that drew us closer together than either of us anticipated. Time slipped away unnoticed until we stopped working altogether. He leaned back against the counter, looking at me thoughtfully as if weighing unspoken words hanging between us. "I miss this," he finally said quietly, an admission so simple yet heavy with meaning. My heart raced at his words, they resonated deep within me, a longing mirrored by an unacknowledged desire brewing beneath layers of loyalty and commitment. Just then, laughter drifted through an open window from neighbors celebrating down the street, a stark reminder of life continuing outside our little bubble while we stood suspended between what was right and what was possible. I forced myself to break eye contact first and returned to fiddling with tools scattered across the counter, a futile attempt to regain control over emotions swirling around us like autumn leaves caught in a gusty wind. "Maybe we should get back to fixing this sink," I suggested awkwardly, trying to deflect from where this moment might lead us. He nodded but didn't move right away. Instead, He took a step closer again, our proximity igniting something deeper within me that both thrilled and terrified me all at once. And then it happened. A shared glance lingered too long before instinct took over. Without thinking about consequences or what lay ahead for either of us, I leaned closer and brushed my lips against his briefly before pulling away sharply. The world outside faded into silence as realization dawned upon both of us. The weight of what had just occurred hung heavily between us like storm clouds ready to burst forth with rain. "I shouldn't have done that," I whispered breathlessly while stepping back further into familiar territory, my heart pounding against my chest as confusion washed over me amidst guilt's suffocating grip creeping steadily forward like shadows lengthening at dusk. He swallowed hard but didn't say anything, only stood there watching me with those intense eyes filled with questions neither one dared voice aloud just yet. Uncertainty loomed large over everything else now tainted by this moment shared between two people entangled by family ties yet drawn together by something far more complicated than loyalty alone could explain away completely. The sound of laughter echoed once more from outside reminding us both life would continue beyond these walls regardless. But inside here lay fragile connections threading through uncharted waters where choices made could change everything forever. The laughter outside faded into a distant hum, leaving an echo of tension in the air. I stood there, caught in the moment, acutely aware of the shift that had occurred between us. The kitchen, once a mundane space filled with the aroma of simmering meals and the sounds of family life, now felt charged with unspoken words and possibilities. I glanced at him, his expression a mix of surprise and something deeper, an understanding that this moment was unlike any we had shared before. The weight of our familial ties hung heavily between us, yet there was an undeniable pull that made it difficult to step back. I thought about my husband, working late again, oblivious to the silent drama unfolding just a few feet away. "Do you think they'll be home soon?" he asked, breaking the silence. His voice was low but steady. "Not for a while," I replied, trying to maintain an air of casualness. "They're at that event across town." We both knew what this meant, time for us to linger in this fragile space where laughter from past gatherings mingled with the uncertainty of our present. As we resumed our task of arranging the kitchen cabinets, I felt my heart race each time our hands brushed against one another. The conversation flowed easily at first, reminiscing about childhood antics and family gatherings. Each shared story brought forth memories, weaving a tapestry of connection that felt both comforting and unsettling. I found solace in these exchanges, they were familiar yet tinged with a new sense of intimacy. Then came the moment that shifted everything. He recounted a particularly embarrassing story from our younger years, one involving spilled juice and a very angry cat. As he animatedly described his younger self's antics, laughter bubbled up within me like a forgotten joy resurfacing after years of neglect. His laughter joined mine, filling the kitchen with warmth as we both leaned against the counter, breathless from mirth. The world outside faded further away until it was just us, two siblings-in-law sharing secrets wrapped in laughter. And then it happened. In an instant that felt both fleeting and eternal, I leaned closer as he shared another anecdote about our husbands' childhoods, their mischievous escapades that often landed them in trouble. Our eyes locked for what seemed like forever before my heart took over my mind. We kissed. The kiss was soft yet electric, a spark igniting something long buried beneath layers of loyalty and commitment. It lasted only a heartbeat but left behind ripples that would change everything between us. As I pulled away, reality crashed back down like an unwelcome wave. Guilt washed over me almost instantly. How could I have let this happen? The thrill mixed with shame created turmoil within me as confusion clouded my thoughts. "I shouldn't have," I started to say but stopped short when I saw his expression. A mix of surprise and longing mirrored my own internal struggle. "No," he replied softly, his eyes searching mine for answers neither of us could provide in that moment. But it happened. I turned away quickly to gather myself. The kitchen suddenly felt stifling despite its familiar surroundings. My heart raced as I tried to push aside the implications of what had just transpired, the boundaries we had crossed without even realizing it until now. Maybe we should talk about this, he suggested hesitantly, as if testing waters too deep for either one of us to navigate alone. Talk? The word felt heavy on my tongue, like an anchor pulling me down into depths unknown. Yes, he replied firmly yet gently, we need to understand what just happened. I nodded slowly, but inside I felt panic rising. How could we define this? What did it mean for us? For our families? The weight pressed heavily on my chest as thoughts spiraled outwards into dark possibilities. Just then, I heard familiar voices approaching from outside, the sound bringing clarity amid chaos but also dread at what lay ahead if they discovered what had unfolded here today. We can't talk now, I said quickly as footsteps grew louder on the porch outside. They're coming back. He nodded in understanding but didn't move away. Instead, he lingered close enough for me to feel his warmth beside me, a reminder of what we had shared moments ago. As my husband entered through the door with cheerful chatter trailing behind him like confetti after a celebration gone awry, reality settled back into place around me like an unwelcome shroud cloaking everything else beneath its weighty fabric. Hey! What are you two up to? He grinned widely as he dropped his keys onto the counter without noticing anything amiss between us, or perhaps choosing not to see it altogether. Oh, I replied too brightly while forcing myself to maintain composure despite feeling completely unraveled inside. Just getting some things organized. He moved closer towards me, oblivious while I fought against rising panic threatening to spill over into view for all to see, the secret lurking just beneath surface tension waiting patiently for its moment to emerge unbidden into daylight. As dinner preparations began around me, filled with laughter and conversation echoing through our home, a sanctuary turned prison, I couldn't shake off lingering feelings left behind by that fleeting kiss, nor could escape sense impending reckoning looming ever closer on horizon, where choices made would ultimately determine fate, not only mine, but everyone else's too. The evening wore on like molasses, dripping slowly through time until finally darkness fell outside, enveloping everything within its embrace. A stark contrast against warmth radiating from soft lights illuminating our gathering space filled with loved ones unaware their lives teetered precariously on edge, created by decisions made under cover night sky. Yet even amidst warmth shared among friends gathered around table laden down with food meant for feasting, my mind drifted back towards him standing nearby, watching quietly, waiting, perhaps hoping, maybe fearing possibility unfolding before us. What would tomorrow bring? Would things remain unchanged, or would walls built around fragile connections begin crumbling under weight truth carried within hearts yearning towards something more than mere familial bonds could offer? With each passing moment uncertainty festered deeper, creating chasms wide enough threatened swallowing whole everything built until now, leaving nothing behind except echoes, memories lost forever. The sun dipped low in the sky, casting long shadows across the kitchen as I stood by the window, a paintbrush in hand. The scent of fresh paint mingled with the remnants of the day's warmth, creating an oddly comforting atmosphere. My husband was still at work, his late nights becoming more frequent, leaving me to navigate this space alone. Alone, except for him. He arrived shortly after the sun had set, a familiar sight that sent a shiver down my spine. The casual greetings exchanged felt like a fragile thread connecting us. I tried to focus on the task at hand, painting cabinets, but my mind wandered to our conversations from previous days. Each moment spent together felt charged with unspoken words and hidden meanings. Looks good, he remarked, leaning against the doorframe, arms crossed casually over his chest. His presence filled the room with an energy I hadn't anticipated. Thanks, I replied, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. Just trying to make it brighter in here. He stepped closer, observing my work with genuine interest. You always had an eye for color. There was warmth in his voice that made me ache for something just beyond reach. As we worked side by side, our laughter echoed softly against the walls. We shared stories about our childhoods and reminisced about family gatherings, moments that felt innocent yet charged with a deeper connection. The way he looked at me held a familiarity mixed with something else, something thrilling and dangerous. I tried to maintain focus on painting but found myself drawn into his gaze more often than not. It was as if we were dancing around an invisible line neither of us dared to cross but both could feel looming ever closer with each passing minute. "Do you want to take a break?" he suggested after we finished painting one cabinet. His voice was laced with an invitation that sent my heart racing. "Sure," I said too quickly, setting down my brush and wiping my hands on a rag. As we settled onto the couch, I felt an electric tension fill the air between us, the kind that ignites when two people share more than just familial ties. He began talking about music, a passion we both shared, and soon we were lost in conversation about our favorite artists and concerts from years past. Each word exchanged felt like another layer peeling away from our respective lives. It was intoxicating. Suddenly, he leaned closer, his eyes searching mine as if seeking permission for something unspoken. The world outside faded away, there were no obligations or expectations, just us in that moment. Then it happened, our lips met softly at first, tentative yet full of unrestrained longing. Time seemed to stop as reality blurred around us, everything else faded into insignificance compared to this single moment of connection. I pulled back slightly, breathless and bewildered by what had just transpired between us. "What are we doing?" My voice trembled as confusion washed over me like cold water splashing against warm skin. "I don't know," he admitted quietly, his expression mirroring my own turmoil. "But it feels right." The weight of our actions loomed heavily above us, an undeniable truth threatening to unravel everything I had built within my marriage and life thus far. As night deepened around us and shadows danced across familiar walls filled with memories of laughter and love shared over years past, uncertainty crept in alongside desire, a potent mix that left me questioning everything I thought I knew about loyalty and fidelity. We fell silent for what felt like hours before finally breaking apart completely. The air around us thickened with unsaid words hanging heavy like fog settling over a quiet town at dusk. "I should probably get back to work," he said reluctantly after what seemed an eternity passed without further touch or glance exchanged between us. "Yes, yes." My voice sounded foreign even to me as I nodded slowly while standing up from where we sat together on that couch. A barrier now constructed between two souls who once shared nothing but familial ties now tangled amidst emotions complicated beyond comprehension. As he moved toward the door leading out into darkness beyond those walls filled with unfulfilled promises and dreams lost along paths never taken before now diverging sharply ahead into uncertainty ahead, my heart raced wildly within my chest while thoughts swirled chaotically through my mind. What have we done? The next few days were filled with tension lingering palpably between us whenever our paths crossed during family meals or casual gatherings meant only for sharing laughter among loved ones, not secrets buried deep beneath layers of guilt weighing heavily upon hearts longing for connection denied by circumstance beyond control too great for either one of us alone to face without consequence looming ever closer. Each evening brought fresh reminders of choices made carelessly amidst fleeting moments stolen away from ordinary lives once lived quietly now transformed irrevocably into something far more complex than mere infidelity could ever convey alone. In those moments when isolation threatened once again engulfing all light surrounding fragile connections forged anew amid shadows cast long before dawn broke through darkness revealing truths hidden beneath surfaces polished bright but never truly reflecting depth found within souls yearning desperately for understanding. Yet still here we remained caught within this web spun tight around hearts entwined dangerously close together yet forever tethered apart by bonds unbreakable forged through time spent building lives together bound tightly despite desires pulling fiercely toward one another, threatening everything built until now leaving nothing behind except echoes memories lost forever. Would tomorrow bring clarity or would walls built around fragile connections begin crumbling under weight truth carried within hearts yearning toward something more than mere familial bonds could offer? The storm raged outside, a cacophony of wind and rain that forced us closer together. The kitchen, once a place of mundane tasks and family meals, transformed into a refuge from the chaos. Shadows danced on the walls as lightning illuminated the room, revealing the unspoken tension that hung in the air like a thick fog. We spent the night together, cocooned in an intimacy that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. The world beyond those four walls faded away, leaving only the sound of our breaths and the rhythmic patter of rain against the window. I could feel his warmth beside me, a comforting presence that contrasted sharply with the turmoil churning within. As dawn broke, casting soft light through the window, I found myself staring at him while he slept. His features were serene, untouched by the complexities of our situation. A pang of guilt surged within me. This was my brother-in-law, a man tied to my life through family bonds and shared history. Yet here we were, entangled in something far more complicated. The morning light revealed the remnants of our night, disheveled cushions and scattered blankets, a stark reminder of choices made in moments of weakness. I rose quietly, careful not to disturb him. The house felt eerily still as I moved about, each creak of the floorboards echoing my internal conflict. In the kitchen, I poured myself a cup of coffee, hoping its warmth would soothe my racing thoughts. The aroma filled the air, grounding me in reality while simultaneously heightening my sense of dread. What had we done? What would happen when morning brought clarity to our hidden affair? With each sip, memories flooded back, family gatherings filled with laughter and love. My husband's smile as he recounted stories from his childhood, moments that now seemed tainted by this new reality. I thought about how he had always been my anchor, a steadfast presence in an ever-changing world. And yet here I stood, on shaky ground with another man who had ignited feelings long buried beneath layers of routine. The sound of movement behind me jolted me from my reverie. He was awake now, stretching lazily as if unaware of the weight pressing down upon us both. Our eyes met for a brief moment before I turned away, unable to bear what lay behind those familiar depths. "Coffee?" I offered weakly. "Sure," he replied with a hint of a smile that stirred something deep within me, a reminder of why we had crossed this line in the first place. As he joined me at the counter, silence enveloped us again. It was heavy with unspoken words and unresolved feelings. The storm outside had subsided to a gentle drizzle, but inside my heart raged like thunderclouds refusing to disperse. "What do we do now?" he asked finally, breaking through my thoughts as he leaned against the counter beside me. I hesitated before answering. Uncertainty clouded my mind. "I don't know," I admitted quietly. He reached out to brush his fingers against mine, a simple gesture that sent shivers coursing through me despite its innocence. It was moments like these that blurred lines further. Each touch felt electric yet fraught with danger. "We can't keep doing this," I whispered more to myself than to him. "Why not?" His gaze bore into mine with an intensity that made it hard to breathe. "Because it's wrong," I replied firmly, though doubt lingered in my voice. He stepped closer then, an uninvited intimacy threatening to swallow us whole again. "Is it really? Or is it just complicated?" Complicated felt like an understatement for what we were navigating, an emotional labyrinth where every turn led deeper into murky waters filled with desire and guilt alike. Before I could respond further, we heard a knock at the door, a sharp reminder that life outside awaited us both like an unwelcome visitor intruding upon our fragile sanctuary. Panic surged within me as I shot him a look filled with urgency. He nodded slightly as if understanding, without needing words exchanged between us any more than we already had shared in whispers during our stolen moments together. "I'll get it," he said softly before moving toward the door while I stood frozen at the counter, still clutching my coffee mug tightly enough for warmth but not enough to ease tension coiling around my chest like vines choking out light from above ground level where truth lay hidden just beyond reach. As he opened it cautiously, peering out into daylight filtering through clouds above, There stood our neighbor whose friendly demeanor suddenly felt suffocatingly intrusive amidst this delicate web spun between two families entwined within one another's lives too deeply now for comfort or clarity alike. "Hey. Just checking in on you guys. Heard there was quite a storm last night," she chirped cheerfully, unaware of secrets cloaked beneath surface appearances masking turmoil brewing just below. I forced myself to breathe steadily while attempting not to eavesdrop on their conversation unfolding mere feet away from where emotions swirled dangerously close around corners, waiting patiently for opportunity present itself once again. Yet even amidst pleasantries exchanged between them, conversations drifted toward mundane topics, the weather forecast for next week or upcoming community events. We remained caught within this web spun tied around hearts entwined dangerously close together yet forever tethered apart by bonds unbreakable forged through time spent building lives together, bound tightly despite desires pulling fiercely toward one another, threatening everything built until now, leaving nothing behind except echoes. Memories lost forever. The neighbor departed, eventually giving way back towards normalcy, but normalcy felt foreign after what transpired overnight. The laughter faded into silence, once more settling heavily across shoulders laden down beneath weight truth carried within hearts yearning toward something more than mere familial bonds could offer. As hours passed, slowly creeping forward, dragging along, uncertainty wrapped tightly around every thought, lingering just outreach, grasping desperately at strings connecting past, present, future, all woven intricately together yet frayed edges threatened unraveling entirely. Under pressure mounting, steadily growing louder each moment passing until finally reaching breaking point where choices must be made. Would tomorrow bring clarity, or would walls built around fragile connections begin crumbling under weight truth carried within hearts yearning toward something more than mere familial bonds could offer? The weight of my choices pressed down on me, an unyielding force that made every breath feel labored. I stood in the kitchen, staring blankly at the half-finished cabinets, the smell of fresh paint mingling with the lingering aroma of coffee. The sun filtered through the window, casting a warm glow that felt almost mocking against the turmoil within me. I had intended to use this project as a distraction, a way to channel my energy into something constructive. Yet here I was, lost in thoughts that spiraled deeper into confusion. My phone buzzed on the counter, pulling me from my reverie. It was a text from my husband asking about my whereabouts. He had grown increasingly suspicious lately, his questions lingering longer than they used to. I hesitated before responding, each second stretching painfully as I considered my options. Should I tell him I was busy with home repairs? Or should I be honest and risk shattering the fragile peace we had maintained? Just finishing up some things around the house, I typed back, my fingers trembling slightly as I hit send. The words felt like a betrayal in themselves, a small lie that masked the larger truth. Moments later, another message came through, a picture of him sitting at his desk, papers spread out before him in disarray. "Hope you're having a productive day," he wrote, his smile brightening even through the screen. A pang of guilt washed over me. He deserved better than this facade. As if sensing my inner turmoil, my brother-in-law appeared at the door with his usual easy charm. "Need a hand?" he asked casually, stepping inside without waiting for an answer. I forced a smile but felt my heart race at his presence. The last few weeks had blurred boundaries that once seemed so clear. He moved with confidence through our home, picking up tools and assessing what needed to be done next. "I thought you could use some help," he said with a grin that sent another wave of confusion crashing over me. "Thanks," I murmured, trying to focus on the task at hand rather than the electric tension hanging between us. As we worked side by side, me measuring and him cutting wood, I couldn't shake off the feeling that each shared glance held unspoken words and emotions too complex to unravel. There was an ease in our interactions now that felt both comforting and dangerous. "Do you think it will look better when it's finished?" he asked suddenly, breaking through my thoughts. "Definitely," I replied absently while watching him tighten screws into place. "It'll feel more like home." He paused for a moment and turned to face me fully. You know what else would make it feel more like home? What's that? My heart raced as he stepped closer. A little less distance between us. His voice dropped slightly as if sharing a secret meant only for me. The weight of those words hung heavily in the air between us, a reminder of everything unspoken yet understood. My pulse quickened as memories flooded back, laughter shared over meals, quiet moments where our hands brushed against one another without hesitation. Before I could respond or even process what was happening, he reached out and touched my arm gently, a gesture both innocent and charged with something deeper. In that instant, all rational thought slipped away. There was only this moment and its intoxicating possibilities. Just then, another buzz from my phone broke through our bubble, a reminder of reality crashing back down around us like an unwelcome storm cloud. "It's him again," I said softly as I glanced at the screen displaying yet another message from my husband asking if everything was all right. "Maybe you should check in," he suggested lightly but with an intensity in his gaze that made it hard to breathe. "No, not now," I whispered more to myself than to him as anxiety clawed at my insides. I took a deep breath and quickly typed back something reassuring before slipping my phone away again, hoping it would buy me just a bit more time before facing inevitable questions about where we were headed or how long we could keep this charade going without consequences catching up with us both. But as we resumed working side by side again in silence, our breaths mingling in shared space, I couldn't shake off how close we were standing or how easily everything could unravel if someone were to walk in right now or discover what lay hidden behind these walls built on secrets and unfulfilled desires. A sudden sound outside startled me, a car door slamming shut followed by footsteps approaching our front porch. Panic surged within me. It could only be one person, the neighbor who often stopped by for casual chats or perhaps worse, someone who might notice too much if they caught sight of us together like this so close under one roof while pretending nothing unusual happened between us at all. "What do we do?" My voice barely rose above a whisper as dread filled every corner of my mind while glancing toward the door where shadows shifted just beyond reach, the uncertainty gnawing away at what little composure remained intact within me. He looked towards the door then back at me, his expression shifting from concern to determination within seconds as he stepped closer still until there wasn't any space left between us anymore, the tension palpable enough to taste on our tongues like bitter coffee gone cold too soon after brewing its last cup together just moments ago. "I'll handle it," he said firmly but softly, offering reassurance even though uncertainty flickered across his features too, before turning toward where footsteps grew louder, approaching steadily closer until finally coming into view right outside our threshold. What would happen next? Would secrets spill out into daylight, exposing everything hidden beneath layers built over years together? Or would fate choose otherwise, leaving us tangled up forever, caught between desire, loyalty, risking everything for fleeting moments spent lost amidst chaos swirling around hearts yearning towards something more than mere familial bonds could ever offer? All those thoughts raced through mind just as quickly as footsteps slowed down right outside, waiting patiently before knocking softly against wood framing life lived behind closed doors. The evening air was thick with anticipation as I prepared for my husband's surprise date night. He had mentioned wanting to reconnect, and I could sense his hopefulness. A part of me wanted to embrace that, to step back into the comfort of our life together. Yet, the other part, the one tangled in unspoken connections, resisted fiercely. As I applied a soft shade of lipstick, I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror. The woman staring back seemed foreign, caught between two worlds, one filled with love and commitment, the other fraught with guilt and desire. I took a deep breath and stepped away from the reflection that no longer felt like mine. When my husband arrived home, he wore an easy smile that lit up his face. He handed me a bouquet of flowers he'd picked up on his way home. "Just because," he said, his eyes sparkling with affection. The gesture warmed my heart, but it also deepened the chasm within me. We headed to our favorite cafe, where the aroma of fresh pastries mingled with rich coffee. As we settled into our usual corner table, I tried to focus on him, the way he laughed at my jokes and how his eyes crinkled when he smiled. But shadows lurked in my mind, flashes of laughter shared with my brother-in-law intruded on this moment meant for us. "Everything okay?" he asked, concern creeping into his voice as he watched me drift away. "Just thinking about work," I replied quickly, forcing a smile. The conversation flowed easily after that, stories from our day and plans for the weekend, but it was laced with an undercurrent of tension I couldn't ignore. As we finished our meal, I felt a familiar pang of longing for something more than what was right in front of me. Later that evening, while washing dishes together at home, I sensed a shift in my husband's demeanor. "I've been thinking," he started cautiously. "We should take a weekend trip soon." The suggestion sparked excitement within me but also dread. Time alone would mean more opportunities for emotional closeness with my brother-in-law if things unfolded as they had before. "Sounds nice," I said non-committally. Just then, the doorbell rang unexpectedly. My heart raced as we exchanged glances. Who could it be? My husband opened the door to find our neighbor standing there with an apologetic smile. "Sorry to interrupt. Just wanted to return this tool you lent me last week," he said cheerfully. I forced myself to engage in small talk while inside my mind chaos reigned supreme. Could this be a sign? Was fate pushing back against my attempts at normalcy? After our neighbor left, I retreated to the living room while my husband cleaned up in the kitchen. The silence felt heavy as thoughts swirled around. My brother-in-law's teasing smile haunted me like a ghost refusing to let go. Suddenly there was a knock at the front door again. Curiosity piqued as I peeked through the window blinds only to see him standing there, a casual presence that sent shivers down my spine despite knowing it wasn't appropriate. What was happening? Why now? I opened the door slightly and leaned against it casually enough but felt everything inside me tighten when our eyes met. An electric connection surged between us even without words spoken aloud. "I didn't expect you here," I managed to say without betraying too much emotion. "I know it's late," he replied quietly but confidently. "I just wanted to see how you were doing." My heart raced at his presence. Every moment spent apart only deepened this bond forged through shared secrets and stolen glances during family gatherings. "Everything's fine," I said too quickly, wishing desperately to retreat into safety yet feeling drawn toward him instead. "I just thought, maybe we could talk?" His voice was low yet inviting, a magnet pulling me closer against all reason. Before I could process what was happening or even consider stepping back inside where safety awaited me, the world outside seemed so far away, I found myself nodding slowly before stepping outside fully into view. Time seemed suspended as we stood there under soft porch light casting shadows around us like memories lingering just out of reach. Laughter from earlier faded into silence replaced by unspoken words hanging heavily between us like fog rolling over hills at dawn. "About what?" My voice barely broke through silence thickening like molasses around us both, each word weighed down by implications neither dared acknowledge fully yet couldn't escape either. "About everything," he replied softly but firmly enough that it resonated deep within me, sparking something long buried beneath layers carefully constructed over years spent nurturing family ties while suppressing desires deemed inappropriate or wrong by societal standards governing relationships built upon loyalty above all else. And then it happened? An unexpected twist as headlights illuminated us from across the street where another neighbor had parked their car unexpectedly close by casting light over both of us revealing emotions swirling beneath surface tension threatening exposure just waiting for someone brave enough, or foolish enough, to break free from chains binding them tightly together. I took a step back instinctively wanting distance yet feeling drawn forward still unable to resist those magnetic pulls binding hearts caught between longing and duty. A dance played out silently beneath stars twinkling overhead oblivious to turmoil unfolding below them. He stepped closer again breaking space between us once more daringly whispering words swirling around urgency barely contained within confines set by invisible walls built around lives lived under scrutiny from prying eyes always watching waiting for cracks revealing Truths hidden beneath layers built over years spent together. Then came another unexpected twist. A sudden noise broke through fragile atmosphere surrounding us, pulling focus away momentarily before returning once again, igniting tension already simmering just below surface, waiting patiently ready to explode forth, unleashing chaos, threatening everything held dear within grasp. My heart raced faster than thoughts racing through mind, replaying moments shared only hours before, leaving behind warmth offered freely, now replaced by uncertainty looming ahead, casting shadows long enough reach beyond boundaries set forth by choices made along winding path. Leading here tonight, standing caught between worlds colliding, desperately seeking clarity amidst confusion swirling around, hearts yearning towards something more than mere familial bonds could ever offer. But clarity remained elusive as choices loomed large before me, demanding attention, tugging relentlessly, pulling toward inevitable conclusion, awaiting discovery lurking just beyond reach. The weight of my choices pressed down on me like a heavy blanket, stifling and suffocating. Each day blurred into the next, filled with the mundane rhythm of life that felt increasingly foreign. My husband's attempts to reconnect were earnest, yet I couldn't shake the shadows that danced in the corners of my mind. The laughter we once shared felt distant, replaced by an undercurrent of tension that threatened to unravel everything. As I stood in the kitchen, preparing dinner, my hands moved mechanically through the motions. Chopping vegetables and stirring sauces became an exercise in distraction. I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the window, a woman caught between two worlds, her heart divided. The phone buzzed on the counter, pulling me from my thoughts. A text from my husband, "Can we talk tonight?" Just us. My stomach twisted at the thought of facing him, knowing what lay beneath his request. I glanced out the window, recalling moments spent with my brother-in-law, his laughter echoing in my ears like a haunting melody. How had we arrived at this precipice? The kitchen renovation had started innocently enough, but it had morphed into something more profound, something I couldn't articulate even to myself. I remembered our shared smiles over paint swatches and tile samples. Those moments had felt like stolen treasures. The door creaked open as my husband returned home earlier than expected. His presence filled the room with an energy I hadn't anticipated. "Hey there," he said with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "How was your day?" "Busy," I replied, forcing a smile in return while my heart raced with conflicting emotions. He stepped closer, studying me as if searching for answers hidden beneath layers of pretense. "I've been thinking about us." The words hung between us like a fragile thread ready to snap under pressure. "What about us?" I managed to ask, though fear gripped me tightly. "I miss you," he admitted softly, his gaze earnest yet tinged with uncertainty. "We've drifted apart lately." I nodded slowly, feeling guilt wash over me like cold water. It was true, we had been distant for too long while I found solace in someone else's company, someone who understood my unspoken desires and fears. "I want to reconnect," he continued, his voice steady despite the tremor beneath it. "Let's make time for each other again." "Of course," I replied automatically, though doubt gnawed at me from within. As he moved around the kitchen preparing dinner alongside me, I felt a sense of normalcy begin to settle back into place, but it was fragile and fleeting. Moments later, just as we finished setting the table, a knock echoed through the house. My heart sank as I recognized who it would be, the one person who could shatter this delicate balance we were trying to restore. My brother-in-law stood at the door when I opened it. His smile was warm yet laced with an underlying tension that mirrored my own turmoil. "Hey. Just thought I'd drop by and see how things were going," he said casually. "Perfect timing," my husband exclaimed from behind me before stepping forward to greet him warmly. I forced a smile as they exchanged pleasantries while inwardly battling rising anxiety. The three of us settled around the dining table, a trio bound by family ties yet fraught with unspoken complications simmering just below the surface. Throughout dinner, laughter punctuated our conversations, Moments where familial bonds reasserted themselves amidst unacknowledged feelings lurking in shadows cast by bright overhead lights. Yet each laugh rang hollow for me. Every shared glance between them felt like an electric current zapping through me, reminding me of what lay beneath this facade of normalcy. After dinner ended and dishes were cleared away, silence enveloped us once more as if waiting for someone to break it open like a fragile eggshell hiding secrets within its walls. "Can we talk?" my brother-in-law finally asked after what seemed an eternity stretched thin between us all. My heart raced again, not out of excitement but dread, as he motioned for us to step into another room away from prying eyes and ears still lingering nearby. My husband glanced at both of us curiously but didn't follow, instead opting to tidy up after our meal, a task that felt trivial compared to what loomed ahead. In solitude now, with only walls holding witness, I faced him fully for perhaps one last time before everything changed irrevocably again. "What is it?" "I can't pretend anymore," he confessed quietly but firmly, his eyes searching mine deeply as if seeking permission or understanding or something else entirely beyond words spoken aloud between two people bound by blood yet torn apart by desire unfulfilled. "What do you mean?" "I care about you," he admitted finally, a confession laid bare without embellishment or hesitation, each word cutting through layers built upon years spent together under one roof filled with family memories shared across countless holidays and gatherings alike now overshadowed by this moment hanging heavy between us both suspended above uncertain ground. "I don't know how this happened," I whispered back almost helplessly, feeling tears prick at edges threatening overflow any second, now spilling forth all those emotions held tightly inside too long already. "I do know though," he paused, gathering courage before continuing softly, "I want more than just friendship." His words hung heavily around us like smoke wafting through air, thickening atmosphere, charged electric vibrating pulse, quickening heartbeat, thrumming louder, echoing reminders, past moments shared, igniting flames flickering dangerously close toward conflagration, poised ready, erupting forth, consuming everything left untouched until now. A knock interrupted our conversation. My husband's voice calling from outside, asking if we needed anything else before heading off to bed soon after long day spent working hard, providing support, keeping family afloat amidst turbulence swirling ever closer toward inevitable conclusion looming near. "We'll talk later?" he suggested hesitantly, glancing toward door, unsure where things would lead next, feeling burden carrying weight, choices made already pressing down upon both hearts, entangled within webs spun, intricate tangled threads binding tightly together, pulling taut, threatening snap. Any moment now, unraveling, lives lived quietly until tonight when darkness descended, leaving only shadows behind. "Yeah, later." And just like that, the moment slipped away, leaving echoes resonating throughout empty space surrounding two souls caught between loyalty and longing, yearning desperately reach across chasms separating worlds, colliding ever closer together, spiraling downward toward unknown depths, waiting patiently below, ready embrace whatever came next. The air in the living room felt heavy, thick with unspoken words. My husband had just returned from work, his face illuminated by the late afternoon sun streaming through the window. He looked tired but hopeful, as if he believed that tonight would be different. I wanted to believe it too, but the weight of my secret loomed larger than ever. "Hey, how was your day?" he asked, attempting to bridge the distance that had grown between us. His voice was warm, yet I could sense an underlying tension. "Just the usual," I replied, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. "I did some cleaning and made dinner." He nodded, his gaze drifting toward the kitchen where remnants of our last project lay scattered about, the half-finished cabinets and paint cans that had become a backdrop for our evolving lives. As he settled onto the couch, I felt a pang of guilt wash over me. The evenings we used to share were now filled with silence and unfulfilled expectations. My mind wandered back to my brother-in-law and those stolen moments that had brought me both joy and shame. "I've been thinking," he began hesitantly. "Maybe we could go out this weekend? Just you and me." The suggestion was innocent enough, yet it sent a ripple of anxiety through me. How could I accept an invitation for intimacy when I was so deeply entangled in my own deception? "That sounds nice," I managed to say, though my heart raced at the thought of facing him while hiding so much beneath the surface. As night descended outside, I busied myself in the kitchen while he relaxed in front of the television. The clatter of dishes echoed through the house as I tried to drown out my thoughts with mundane tasks. But even washing plates couldn't erase the memories of laughter shared with my brother-in-law just days before, how easily we had connected over simple things like music and art. Suddenly, the doorbell rang, jolting me from my reverie. My heart raced as I exchanged glances with my husband before moving toward the door. Opening it revealed my brother-in-law standing there, casual yet undeniably charming. "Hey. Just thought I'd drop by," he said, his smile disarming. Come in," I stammered, glancing back at my husband who wore an expression of mild confusion. We made small talk as he stepped inside, but each word felt heavy with implications. My brother-in-law's presence was both a comfort and a threat. My husband remained on the couch, seemingly unaware of how this unexpected visit stirred an undercurrent between us. "I was just helping her with some ideas for the kitchen," he said casually to my husband while looking directly at me. The way he spoke felt like an inside joke shared only between us. As they chatted about mundane things, the weather and recent events, I found myself lost in thought again. Each laugh shared between them felt like a reminder of what lay hidden beneath our interactions, a secret world that thrived in shadows. Suddenly, a text message notification broke through my thoughts. It was from him. "Can we talk later? Need to see you." My stomach dropped at his words. Every interaction seemed charged now with urgency. "I should probably get going," my brother-in-law announced after a brief visit that felt both too short and unbearably long. He turned toward me before leaving. "Let's catch up soon." I nodded numbly as he stepped out into the night air, a momentary reprieve from reality slipping away like sand through fingers. Once alone again with my husband, tension filled every corner of the room like smoke from an extinguished fire, its remnants still lingering in our conversations. "Everything okay?" he asked gently, concern etched across his features. "Yeah, just tired," I replied too quickly. It sounded hollow even to me. As bedtime approached and darkness enveloped our home, sleep eluded me once more. Thoughts spiraled endlessly around what lay ahead, my heart torn between loyalty and longing for something that felt so right yet so wrong all at once. In those quiet hours alone with myself, doubt crept in alongside desire. Each moment spent contemplating choices made left me feeling more lost than ever before. The weight of decisions pressed down heavily on my chest as if suffocating all clarity within reach. Morning dawned without resolution. Sunlight spilled into our home revealing its imperfections, the unfinished kitchen serving as a constant reminder of what lingered beneath surface appearances. My husband moved around quietly preparing breakfast while I sat at the table lost in thought, wondering how long this charade could continue without consequences, unraveling everything we'd built together over years spent side by side navigating life's challenges together. Then came another knock on our door, a sound that sent chills racing down my spine as dread settled within me like leaden weights pulling deeper into uncertainty surrounding every choice made thus far. Could it be him again? Or perhaps someone else entirely? I exchanged glances with my husband who looked equally perplexed by this interruption breaking through fragile peace we'd managed to maintain until now, both aware there were no guarantees left unbroken if secrets continued spilling forth unchecked. With trembling hands gripping tightly onto chair's edge beneath table where breakfast plates lay untouched before us, I stood up slowly moving toward door uncertainly bracing myself for whatever awaited beyond threshold separating two worlds colliding once more.